On today's episode, a little question and answer between co-founders about the topic of direct messaging, building connections over Instagram's private messaging features, and comments.
And getting guests for the show.
You may have seen it, you may have listened to it, but we've been doing the DULO Show for about 3 weeks now,
3 weeks.
I think. And we were quite surprised at the way this program evolved.
But I think it's one of the best piece of content that we have.
And
To
the
be
first
honest.
original content that we
Yeah.
had as well.
I'm really happy with that one.
And we wanted to dedicate this episode on this. It's going to be in a slightly different format, a little bit of question and answers about how we got to connect with the people who are guests on our show, and how we are still doing this in terms of booking new guests for our show. And I will be asking questions. Julian is going to be answering them because he's been mostly involved in connecting with the guys that we had on the show.
Yeah.
Um,
And just one quick thing, because the initial idea of the show was to have 3 different types of content. So it was either a guest, um, a poll. We post a video that someone sends,
yes,
or we answer a question from someone,
a random
a
question.
random question. And I think the reason that we had the other two besides the guests is because we thought that we wouldn't be able to book any guests
That's true.
in the beginning,
Yeah.
except friends.
And that's mostly because we don't really have a huge audience yet, and we thought, well, would it be appealing for other people to actually get involved with us, for them to take 20 or an hour of their time and spend it with us talking about either business, social media, or a random question that we ask them. But it turns out that people are quite helpful, and we found a way that works great for us. And I want to ask you, the first question is, where do we do these first connections with those people?
Yeah, so we have 4 shows recorded. The first one was with our good friend Buyan, so we didn't actually book him. He was just he was just at our house.
Which, a side note, the very first thing is that, so it's super easy to do. Having Boyan
Just-
on the show
yeah.
was basically removed all barriers and all pressure, because we know each other, and for us it's super easy to just talk about stuff.
Yeah,
But
And-
how did it go with the next guest?
yeah. So we booked 3 other guests. We recorded with 3 other guests. We have two of them live, and the next one with Andrew, who you're gonna meet this Friday. We're posting that on Friday and Saturday. So booking the 3 guys to be on the show, and keep in mind that we don't want to book anyone. We want to book someone that's starting his own business or running his own business, so there's actually some interesting content that we can relate to, and maybe
Right.
we can provide also some value and knowledge in return to those guys' time. So the first guy, Johnny, if you watch the podcast, I think you landed on his profile, and then we saw that he's actually also documenting his journey. He has a wedding photography company, and we saw that his feed kind of looks similar to ours in terms of randomness.
Yes.
Just recording the process of building a business, and then we thought it's an appropriate guy to have.
That's a common feature, by the way, for people who are documenting the journey. It seems when we look at other people's profiles on Instagram, because we got some people follow us back, or we like to just explore who is interacting with that type of content. You see quite a lot of interesting combination of content. They're hardly really curated feeds.
Yeah,
I think.
because if you're documenting, you're not actually creating any special content. You're just documenting what's happening, so that tends to be more random than
Yeah.
setting stuff up.
Flip out the phone and record something.
Yeah. So Johnny, after you told me that he has his bio says that he's documenting his journey as well, I reached out to him. I told him
Where did you reach out to him?
it was Instagram DM. So
And where can people find this? Because we want to go into a little bit more practicality We assume that not everybody is that familiar with how these platforms work.
Okay, let's see.
So when you go on Instagram,
And when you add, is that good? When you
Yeah.
add someone, I think Instagram changes that you get the message button straight away.
yeah,
So that message button you see there sends a direct straight message to the person.
let me see.
So there we go.
And you have a messenger.
Yeah, but the thing is that maybe Instagram's gonna block that feature in the future. So currently it's really useful and quick to get to people before there's some security settings implemented from Instagram in the near future. So anyway,
So how do you open a conversation like this?
I'm just honest. I try to always tell the people that we don't have a big following yet, and what we're doing. I think what helps is that we have a lot of content from the last three months that we've been doing this. So once I tell them our account, so if I write from my personal account, I'll give them a link to the Where DULO Instagram account, and they see a lot of content created, so they see it's real people, it's not some spam bots.
Right.
So we build kind of a trust from there, and then I point them to our account so they can see what we're doing. I tell them that we don't have a huge following, so there's no any expectations before that. And then I tell them that we record a show, and with Johnny especially because he was the first non-friend guest. So the rest, I think, after him, they at least saw that we did a podcast with some American guy. Um, who's speaking native English, so I think we had more trust in them from them seeing him. Um, and then I told him, yeah, that we're building a business, we're recording a podcast, we're trying to start a podcast. And then just be honest, we don't have a big following. This is what we're doing. The podcast, I usually give them the format, what we're gonna do. So basically, have a nice chat, hopefully. And then I tell them that we send the file straight away. So the whole recording without any edits. I think that's maybe it might be valuable for them because then they can share their own content with their own channels.
So you try to be very extensive in the description of what we're doing, where we are right now at this particular moment, and what kind of value is in it for them, and just being completely transparent.
Yeah, because then if they sign up for the podcast, then we actually clean sheet. I mean, they know what they expect and we know what to expect.
Right.
So there's not any missed expectations.
And I wonder, does everyone respond that you write to? Does every account that you connect with actually responds?
Uh, well, I think I haven't been spamming people, so they've all been kind of educated guesses. So I actually think the three guys that I wrote to, they responded.
Okay. Nice.
Now, keep in mind, we find those people mainly in the thread of Gary Vaynerchuk. So they're mostly entrepreneurs starting their own business or running their own business or looking for marketing advice. So they kind of have that mindset of being open to just talking with people and networking because they can't lose anything except time. In the worst case scenario, they just lose their time if we bomb as hosts.
Of course.
So they are pretty open. So the three of those guys are all from the States, and they seem very enthusiastic about talking with other people who are building businesses.
Yeah, I think people from the US are generally much more open and inclined to quickly respond and get into such a conversation and such a relationship. And by the way, you don't have to do that only on Instagram. Twitter direct messaging works as well. We're now hitting Twitter as well. We're experimenting on Anchor a little bit also with voice, and they're just giving a shout out to someone who checked out our station. Just yesterday, someone that I connected on Anchor actually went and found us on Snapchat and is now following us on Snapchat. Which is, yeah, one-on-one relationships really work. Instead of us trying to connect at one time to 1,000 people,
Exactly.
actually investing the hours, which is really hours, commenting, trying to help people. Another thing, at least I've seen you do it, and I try to do it on Twitter as well, is to actually join these conversations under these like influencers threads, and provide some value to the people. If they're asking them question, I try to get in and actually reply to somebody. One of my favorite people I like to follow online is Ryan Carson from Treehouse. Treehouse is a school for online courses for programming. And a lot of people are asking him questions about how to start. And I know myself as a programmer as well, and being through that track, I can already help those people save Ryan some time. Don't do it with expectations for anything in return. I just want to be valuable and help other like-minded individuals.
Yeah, just join the conversation.
Just join the conversation and interact and invest into one-on-one relationships. Make sure you go into a relationship like that, being really transparent and offering value. Try to offer more value than expect anything in return. Don't even expect anything in return, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's useful whatever your niche is or what your industry is. If you're interested, of course, in doing it, just find some influencers that have a very active thread, so people commenting and liking, not liking, people actually commenting and engaging with them, and then join that conversation. So if you're building a makeup YouTube channel, find those people that are big on that in that niche on Instagram, for example, or Twitter, and then just join that conversation and see there's always some people looking for collaboration. So that's where you can engage.
Awesome. I think we dropped a lot of wisdom today, didn't we?
Well, let's hope so.
Wow. At least we shared our experience, and we wanted to enjoy this amazing evening.
Yeah. Are we gonna cover the other two guys? Just quickly, I'll go quickly through.
Go quickly.
Johnny, the first one we reached out to him because we saw that his profile was also documenting his business, so that there was a high percentage that he would be interested in what we're doing. Second guy, Mitch, he reached out to me, so he's very proactive, very active guy. You saw if you saw the podcast. He talks a lot about building networks and relationships and just connecting with
Right.
people. So that's exactly what happened to me, because I'm guessing he writes to a lot of people, but not a lot of people reply back. So I kind of took that chance and replied back to him. And the third guy, to be honest, Andrew, you're gonna meet on Friday. I reached out to him, but I can't remember where I saw him. But then again, it was the same. We're doing a podcast. We don't have a big following. This is what we're doing. This is our account. Go check out what we're doing. And then once he kind of gets interested in the amount of content and then on the topic of our feed. But pleasantly surprised by people who are actually taking their time
Absolutely.
to do a podcast with us.
Yeah. Another feature of that is actually that these are people. We're not aiming for the 30, 50, like 1 million, like 1 million follower people. We know that these are probably it's very hard to reach those. So the people that we've connected so far, at least, are quite. I mean, it's much easier for us to reach out to them, and I think they're not overwhelmed by messages and notifications. So it's easier. So if you want to like get in touch with somebody, don't aim for the person with 100,000 followers. Aim for somebody who is more likely to actually see and react on your notification.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think the way I think approach is a person who's gonna be interesting to be on our podcasts in our context. So if he has 1.5 million followers, but he's talking about something which is not relevant to our conversation, I don't think it's any value to anyone. So I
True.
think that was the main criteria which we picked those three guys. It was actually people who are doing and running their own business, so they could relate to what we're doing. I don't think we even looked at numbers, even though after that we saw that actually they have quite a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we reached like all of those guys combined maybe like 40,000-50,000 followers. But that was something that we saw after that, or maybe I checked it out. So, but it wasn't the priority of picking those guys.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. We're gonna show you the beautiful sunset.